Yo, what's going on, guys? Your boy Fanatic and I am back with another video. So today will be my second schedule preview for a team of the SEC. This will be the Auburn schedule preview. Yesterday I did my favorite team in the Florida Gators, so I figured today might as well do kind of a middle-of-the-road SEC West team. Auburn is a very, very interesting team. You don't know if they're going to go like 9-3 or 10-2 or 6-6 or 7-5. It's a very, very interesting team, and I haven't really taken a deep dive into their schedule yet, so I figured today would be a good time to do it and go ahead and do the Auburn schedule preview. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So Auburn starts off the year with a huge game against Oregon and Justin Herbert, one of the best quarterbacks in college football in my opinion. So this is a big game. I think it's going to be very, very defensive. Despite Justin Herbert being one of the best QBs in college football, I think Auburn will handle him well. I think this game is going to get off to an extremely slow start, almost like the Washington-Auburn game last year, very, very similar to that. And just like the Auburn-Washington game last year, I think Auburn will win a one-possession, close, physical, low-scoring football game. I'm going to give Auburn the 17-13 win in a huge way to start off the season, upsetting Oregon. So up next in Week 2, Auburn gets kind of a week off after a very, very difficult Week 1 win against Oregon. They face Tulane. It's pretty simple. Auburn's going to crush Tulane. It's not going to be much competition, I don't think. I think Auburn's going to get kind of a nice week off after a very, very difficult Week 1 win. So I'm just going to give the Auburn Tigers a 52-0 win here against Tulane as they are off to a quick 2-0 start. So in Week 3, Auburn is at home again, another kind of cupcake game against Kent State. You know, it's pretty basic stuff here. I think Kent State will put up a bigger fight than Tulane did. I think they're a much better team than Tulane. I actually think they're not that terrible of a team, but they're still going to get crushed by Auburn, in my opinion. So I'm going to give Auburn the 42-10 win over Kent State. They take care of them. They put up a decent fight for the first half, but Auburn just blows them out in the second half. So Auburn is off to a nice 3-0 start. So Auburn goes on the road for the first time this season against Texas A&M. This is going to be a very, very close game, but in the end, I think Texas A&M gets revenge on Auburn for last year. Of course, Auburn came back to defeat Texas A&M in an upset last year, but this year it's in Texas. I think Texas A&M is going to get the close, hard-fought win. I think it's going to be a great game till the end, but I'm going to give Texas A&M the 28-24 victory over Auburn, handing them their first loss of the season, and it's a brutal one because Texas A&M is above them now in the SEC West rankings, and that was their first SEC game of the year, so a rough start in SEC play for Auburn. So with Auburn needing a win in SEC play, they go back home to face Mississippi State. I feel like these teams are very, very similar. Both have dual-threat quarterbacks that haven't shown much, both physical defensive teams that are going to rely on ball management to win games, and I think this will be kind of like an Oregon-Auburn situation earlier in the year. I think Auburn will once again win a close, low-scoring, physical, long football game, controlling the clock and controlling ball possession, and I think I'm going to give Auburn the 20-17 win and a huge SEC win against Mississippi State, rebounding nicely from that rough Texas A&M loss. So Auburn is now 4-1 on the year. So Auburn heads back on the road again to face Florida here in Week 6, and sorry if you guys can hear the rain outside. A little bit of a storm is going on at my house. Right now it's just heavy rain, so sorry if you guys can hear that. But back on topic, Auburn faces Florida here in Week 6 on the road. I went over this yesterday in my Florida season preview. I think that Auburn puts up a great fight against a very, very game Florida team. But in the end, I think Florida escapes with the victory on a game-winning field goal. Auburn puts up about as good as a fight as they possibly can. But Florida finds a way to win it at the end as Auburn falls to 1-2 in SEC play and 4-2 on the year. So another heartbreaking, rough loss. Much like the Texas A&M loss, this time it's against Florida. So Auburn stays on the road to face an Arkansas team that I think they will take care of fairly easily. You know, Arkansas, I'm not a big believer in them at all. I think that they're going to go 2-10 or something like that this season. I don't think they're going to improve much from last season. I think they're a disaster right now, and it'll be a while before they can start competing with teams, even middle-of-the-road teams like Auburn. So I think Auburn handles Arkansas. I think Arkansas puts up a little bit of a fight, but Auburn still comes out victorious with a 35-17 victory to get back on track and head to 5-2 and get back to 500 in SEC play. So Auburn stays on the road for the third week in a row facing LSU. I think Auburn puts up a better fight against LSU than a lot of people would initially think. I think they take LSU to their limit. I think it's going to be another kind of low-scoring, physical game. Not as low-scoring as the Oregon game and the Mississippi State game, but, not a ton of points will be scored. It's a very, very physical football game. This is a very, very heated rivalry, and I think it'll be the same in this game. They've produced some great games over the past couple years, and I think this one will be no different. But I do believe that LSU will escape with a walk-off field goal win for another heartbreaking loss for Auburn. So again, Auburn has the 5-3. I think LSU wins 26-24. And all three of Auburn's losses were very, very close games. They were, one was the loss 28-24 against Texas A&M by 4. Then they lost to Florida with a walk-off field goal, 31-28. Then they'll lose to LSU, in my opinion, with a walk-off field goal, 26-24. So they fall to 5-3. But if they can start winning these close games, I wouldn't be shocked if Auburn was 6-2 or 7-1 or maybe even 8-0 by this point, even though that might be a little bit of a stretch. But I still give the win to LSU here in week 8, I believe. So Auburn, after 3 straight weeks of being on the road for pretty difficult games, finally heads back home for kind of a little bit of an easier game against Ole Miss. But I do believe that Ole Miss will still put up a good fight against Auburn here. I think that Auburn kind of handles them, but I think Ole Miss scores enough points to make it look actually kind of close. But I do think that Auburn will dominate and win this football game. I think it'll be a 35-21 victory for Auburn. Auburn, it doesn't look great in this game. They still are kind of tired from the LSU game. But, it's Ole Miss and it's Auburn. There's no way Ole Miss is beating Auburn. There's just too much of a talent gap between these two teams. So I am giving the win to Auburn as they head back to 500 in SEC play and heads to 6-3 on the year. So, in one of Auburn's biggest games of the year, they face Georgia. Some people have been saying that Auburn has a decent chance of beating Georgia. I don't buy into it. I think Georgia will personally lose to Florida, and I don't think Georgia's going to lose a game that recent after losing a big rivalry game against Florida. So I think Georgia comes into Auburn, Alabama, and takes care of Auburn fairly easily. I think it's a close first-half game, kind of similar to what it was last year, a close first-half game, but Georgia just kind of slips away with the lead in the second half and takes care of Auburn 34-20. I don't think Auburn has a good of a shot as everybody thinks to beat Georgia. I don't think Auburn's good enough yet to beat Georgia. Maybe in 2 years, maybe even 1 year, they can really compete with Georgia. But for right now, I think the safer bet would be to give Georgia the win here, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So, in a cupcake game between Auburn's 2 most important games of the year, Georgia and Alabama, I think Auburn takes care of Samford pretty easily here. I think they're going to win 48-7. It's pretty simple. I think that it might be a slow first half because they still have their minds on that Georgia loss and Alabama next week. But in the second half, Auburn gets things rolling and blows out Samford 48-7 in an easy game before their biggest game of the year, the Iron Bowl against Alabama. So in their last game of the year, it is the Iron Bowl game against Alabama. Auburn, I don't think, has much of a chance to beat Alabama this year. I think they'll put up a lot better of a fight than they did last year. I think their talent gap is a lot smaller this year. I think Auburn's more equipped to beat a team like Alabama this year, but I still don't think that they're going to be able to get it done. I think Alabama gets the 35-24 win to end off the year, and Auburn falls to 3-5 in conference play and 7-5 in total. So in conclusion, I don't think that Auburn really has much of a chance to really upset Alabama. I think they put up a fight, but in the end, Bama is once again triumphant against their, in my opinion, weaker counterparts. So in the end, I think that Auburn goes the same record that they did last year in 7-5, missing out on truly elite bowl games whenever you go, like 9-3 or 8-4. But in the end, I just don't think Auburn has what it takes yet to beat those teams like Georgia and Alabama. But then again, it's all about the close games for them. There's a ton of close games, against Oregon, Mississippi State, LSU, Florida, just a bunch of those tight games. And if they win all of them, maybe they go 9-3 or 10-2. But if they lose all of them, maybe they don't even make a bowl game. It comes down to the close games. So that is what's gonna define this Auburn team this year. If they have the leaders and the personnel and the coaching staff to get them over that finish line and win those tight games, then they're going to be great this season. If they don't, then they're going to be a disappointment and maybe not even make a bowl game. It's going to be very, very fun to watch them as they have some of those close, exciting games, and I think there's going to be a lot of them this year, particularly for the Auburn Tigers. And it seems like once every 4 years or 3 years, they're really, really good. In 2010, they were really good with Cam Newton. In 2013, they were really, really good with Nick Marshall, I believe was his name. And in 2017, they were really good with Jarrett Stidham. So maybe in 2019, they're really good with their new quarterback. But I just don't really see it yet. They have to recruit against a team like Alabama, which is a very, very difficult task. That is extremely hard to do, and that's why they're not going to be elite every single season, and they have to have a couple rebuilding seasons, and I think this year will be one of those rebuilding seasons. But this is Fanatic signing off. Have a great day. Like, comment, and subscribe, and peace.